So this week, we're talking about how not to burn bridges and 3 steps that you can do to make sure that you don't burn your bridges. Stay tuned. All right, everybody worldwide, you're now tuned into Motivation and Confidence, where we help you do your daily best. And I'm your host, Tom Danger. Don't burn your bridges. And I have a story to tell. So I remember years ago when one of my cousins had proposed to his then girlfriend to get married. And this particular cousin made it out the hood. He was doing all right for himself, you know. And he managed to put himself within a circle of friends who were also doing well for themselves. Okay. And for whatever reason, he looked at me as a little brother, even though I was his cousin. So when he got ready to get married, he was like, yo, I want you to be the best man in my wedding. And I'm young, I'm in my 20s or whatever. I'm like, yo, that's kind of cool. And he's like, yeah, you know, so set something up for me. Here are my boys, all their telephone numbers or whatever, email addresses. If you want to organize something, just connect with all of them. Now, mind you, all of these dudes, I strongly believe that back then they were easily in the 6-figure crew, right? Like they would say, making coin, right? I was nowhere in that bracket yet, right? So I said, all right, let me put together a bachelor party for you, right? And I'm not going to, let me just preface this by saying, you know, all of us were on our best behavior, you know, besides drinking too much and smoking cigars and tipping a couple of dollars. That's probably as bad as it got. Like it was no, what do you call it? The thing in Vegas where the guys went out, you know, with the kids and missing teeth and no, it wasn't to that extreme, you know, hangover. Yeah, it wasn't the hangover thing. It was just some young guys getting together, going to have dinner, have some drinks, smoke some cigars, jump in a private van, head up to what was back then called Sue's Rendezvous, right? So all the rappers, when they came up, you know, to New York, you wanted to go to Mount Vernon to go to Sue's Rendezvous. Neither here nor there. So I'm working in a hotel at the time, and you know, a lot of people looked at me as a pretty respectable young guy, you know, because I always came to work and I did what I was supposed to do. So when I put it out there that I was putting together a bachelor party for my cousin, no one looked at me like crazy, like, oh, what are you doing? You know, I said, I want to put something together all inclusive to where, you know, I can just ask these guys for a certain amount of money. I collect all the money, and then that would cover the food, the drinks, in the van. When we got to the strip club, everyone's on their own because you can never control how much a person may lose their mind when at the strip club, right? So I worked it out, and we managed to get, I can't recall, but it was a steak spot that was down on Park Avenue South in like 20-something Street. And I managed to get some sort of prefix and 2 drinks included, something like that, right? With the van, the food and the drinks, it was like $65 a person, right? So again, all these guys are part of the 6-figure crew. I'm not in the 6-figure crew. I'm just like, and maybe it's like, I want to say between 10 and 15 of us. It was probably one other guy that wasn't there in the 6-figure crew, and he was a detective, but that's another story, right? For whatever reason. So everybody agrees. We go through email, we connect, phone. All right, we're going to surprise your cousin like this. We're going to meet up at the spot. Boom. So let's meet at the hotel where I work at first. So we all meet there. We jump into a black van, which is probably the equivalent of like a Via right now, right? It's funny how times change. Like back then, if you had like a black van with the black tinted windows, it was like almost like an oversized limousine, right? Like a mini tour bus is what it was like. And I think what was the company called? Like Limousine Plus, or no, it was called Golden Touch. It was called Golden Touch, right? So Golden Touch had all of, the black sedans and black vehicles. So we had the Golden Touch, we had the nice steakhouse, drinks, cigars, all that. When we get there, $65 a person. You can pick from these 4 items on the menu, 2 drinks, whatever you want. Premium shelf. We're not talking, you know what I'm saying, the speed rack. Premium alcohol and stuff. And here's where the nonsense starts. Once we start ordering, like one guy goes, oh, well, I don't really want much to eat. I'll just have a salad. I'm looking at myself like, bro, like, we coming out to dinner. Like, who just has a salad? Like, we at a steakhouse. Another guy was like, oh, I'm just going to have a soup. Another guy's just like, oh, I'm just going to have a piece of fish. So nobody's like ordering steak except for like 4 of us, right? So now the check comes. Mind you, I'm with the 6-figure crew. Everybody in there is making coin except for me and probably one other guy. The check comes and it's a few $100s. And now we start playing this game. Well, I just had this. I just had that. I'm not going to pay $65. I didn't have a drink. I only had 1 drink. I had a glass of wine. I didn't have Jack Daniels. I have this. I have that. So people are contributing what they thought was appropriate, right? I didn't want to bother Cuzzo with that because this is his day. He's not paying for anything because we're all chipping in on his behalf. So that 65 included whatever he was going to have. And it was this one particular guy there that was just being a knucklehead. And I'm trying to be so polite here, right? Like, I don't want to. He was just being a knucklehead at the time. So what do? I go in my pocket, and let me preface this by saying I am not part of the 6-figure crew. I had a little bit of cash, I think, because I saved up some money because I'm a saver, right? So I came out with the difference. All right, cuz, don't worry about it. Boom. I tell like 2 or 3 of the dudes at the table came up short. I said, yo, before the end of the night, just give me the difference. Like, I understand you don't want to do it here. We don't want to go back and forth. They were like, all right, cool. So we jump in the van, and I ain't going to say that. So we jump in the van, and everybody's feeling nice. We done had a bunch of drinks. Cuzzo probably had too much to drink. He's laying down in the back seat. Before you know it, he gets sick. Right? Now we got to clean up the van before we get out because, he's barfed in the back of the van. And we get to the club. Now, by the time we get to the club, get him a beer, sober him up, he ready to go. Girls are there shaking in front of him. Again, he's not spending any money, but I'm hanging out with the 6-figure crew. Everybody else should have it. Again, even in the club, they wasn't throwing dollars like that. They was like real reserved, just sitting back. Okay. So we stayed there for a while and got Cuzzo a couple of lap dances again. I said, here, this is for you, cuz. This is your night. Have a good time. We get back in the van. I'm not buzzed. I'm not tweaked. Anything. I'm just worried about the money that I came up short with that night. So I'm looking at these other dudes like, yo, y'all got to break me off before we leave because now the van is like headed back from Mount Vernon back to the city. So they're dropping everybody off at different locations. So I'm saying to myself like, yo, I hope that they don't drop people off before they give me my bread. So I got my money back from 2 of the guys. Then it was 2 other guys that were giving me a hard time. And they was feeling nice and they were buzzed or whatever. And one of the guys, his stop comes up. Oh, we were getting close to stop. He's like, I got to go to the bathroom, right? So he jumps out, takes a whiz, And, I'm sort of like a germaphobe. So when he was about to go in his pocket, I was like, nah, I'm good. Because you didn't just wash your hands or anything. You're not going to, touch your stuff, then touch your money. And then, no. Okay. So he got off. I think I wound up bumping into him again one time when we went to play golf. And he legitimately was like, yo, I apologize about that night. Here's the money. Cool. So now we're down to the last guy, right? And he's definitely part of the 6-figure crew. And I'm like, yo, make sure you get my money. Now, I'm thinking like, so we riding, and let's say like we in Harlem and we coming from 145th, right? And his stop is supposed to be 110th Street. He tells the driver, yo, let me jump out at 125th for a second, right? So I'm like, okay, I don't know why he's jumping out at 125th. But he jumps out at 125th, and being a real sucker, he jumps in a cab and doesn't give me my money, right? So I'm tight now. I'm like, yo, did he really just play me like that? Right? And I wanted to argue with him. Like at that point, I'm like, yo, when I see him, it's on sight. I'm dead serious. Like I was just tight. Like, y'all all making more money than me. Like, why you want to play me like that? Right? Time goes past. Years pass. This gentleman winds up launching his own company. Right? And is in a position where he's doing okay for himself. Right? He's not at that level yet where he's, rock star, but he's definitely on the climb. He's going. And for whatever reason, I kept his number for years. And I'm at the point where I'm making a decision as far as a career transition to entrepreneur is concerned. And I went through my phone and I had to look at the people that I know that have made the leap. And he's one of those individuals. So I called him. And when I first called him, I guess I thought him being his usual obnoxious self, he didn't answer the phone. And he shoots me a text message like, talk to you later or call me later or something like that. And then about 2 hours later, he calls me back. And I know that he's a short and to the point type of person, so I didn't BS on the phone like, hey, how you doing? And this and this. I said, Joe, this is what I want to do. If you can give me some advice, what would it be? 1, 2, 3. And legitimately, he gave me solid information. The money at this point, it didn't matter to me because the conversation that we had at this moment was worth more than the few dollars that I lost in the past. And some of you may be listening to this like, well, what are you talking about? Like, what's going on here? And the point is, never burn your bridges. Never burn your bridges. I've heard older people say to me, you get further with honey than what you do with vinegar. Like if I would have got up in this dude face and started acting a fool over a couple of dollars, I wouldn't have been able to make that phone call tonight. Right? You never compromise your own integrity for the sake of the way that another person behaves. You are who you are in your character. Now, that's not to say that you should allow yourself to be a pushover to anyone. He know he was wrong. I made that abundantly clear. Like, yo, you bugging. You supposed to give me my bread, right? And he know at some point again, I was going to see him because the circle is really small. But in developing relationships, not always are you going to be buddy-buddy with people, right? But there's a point where You can value certain relationships for what they are. Now, this guy has always been a grinder. He's always been a hustler. He's always been on his own. And I respected that about him. That is the part that I respected. So because of that, I never just dismissed the whole thing, to the point to where, again, I'm transitioning there and I wanted to get some advice from someone who's done it. What should I do? And now I was able to make that call. So the takeaway here is 3 things that you should do in order not to burn bridges, right? And the first thing is always be yourself. Always be yourself. Don't try to be like, I could have easily tried to front like I had more money than what I had just to be impressive by those guys, but then I would have looked foolish in the end, right? So I was just myself. I didn't try to pretend that I had more than what I had. I'm humble to the situation. I'm humble to be in the presence of different people. But also, don't be a sucker. The second point is stand your ground. Like if a person is doing something to you that you don't agree with, you should vocalize that. You don't have to yell and you ain't got to get all crazy. I mean, some people respond better to that, but it's better for you to stand your ground, let your voice be known, and let people know how you feel. And it's not to be displayed in front of other people, because then people think that you're trying to put them down and put on a show. So stand your ground and talk to a person face to face. And lastly, this may sound weird, but the third point is forgive, but don't forget. Right? I don't know if this individual has changed that much over the years, because at any given point in time, like I would definitely think twice before investing any money with this person, because that's not to say that I would get my bread back just based upon the initial connection that we had. So it's like, if you're going to beat me out of $60, what would happen if I gave you $6,000? Right? But at the same time, I value the journey that this person has taken so that I can learn something from their experience. All right. As always, if you have comments, questions, or if you just want to say hello, you could always send us an email to tommydanger@gmail.com, TOMMY@gmail.com. You could also check out the website and subscribe to our email list. That is at www.tommdanger.com, TOMDANGER.com. What else we got going on? This has been episode 70. Don't burn your bridges. This is Motivation and Confidence, where we help you do your daily best. Thank you for tuning into Motivation and Confidence, where we help you do your daily best. Like, subscribe, or leave a comment. Check us out on various platforms: Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Overcast, Castbox, SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, TuneIn, or Alexa Media.